everybody. My name is Alma Clages with El Paso Water and the Tech H2O Water Resource Learning Center. And I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about our most precious resource of water. Did you know that in 2021, El Paso Water is celebrating 30 years of conservation efforts? Let's take a look.
This is to me a labor of love to bring an awareness of the water resources.
We live in a desert and there's a finite amount of water, so every drop literally is precious, and I think people really take that to heart nowadays.
Before the conservation ordinance was implemented, the average El Pasoan used more than 200 gallons a day. So every person, more than 200 gallons a day. And that's a large number.
We actually listened to a lot of different people and groups to make sure that the ordinance that was drafted back then was something that could be implemented.
50 years ago, it was obvious we were in the desert. And so we knew that there was a need for water conservation. The initial response, I would say, was reasonably positive. And I think that part of the reason that that's true is that we kicked it off with a lot of education.
One of my favorites also is the turf rebate program. We started that in order to incentivize people to put in some xeriscaping, because it gave us the opportunity to educate our customers about low water use plants, shrubs, and trees, and really to embrace the native landscaping. A free showerhead giveaway that we had, and we did that back in 2000, and we gave away over 160,000 low-flow shower heads at that time. And I think that was the great thing about our rebate programs. It showed that we were taking conservation seriously and that the water utility was willing to assist our customers to start with that change in mindset of going towards water conservation. And we put our money where our mouth was. The rate structure that we implemented has been a huge part of the success of our water conservation.
The Tech H2O Center has been open since 2007. The whole idea for this center is for the public to come and learn the value of water, to learn about what it takes to bring water to your faucet. It's been a wonderful education component of El Paso Water. We have Willie's our ambassador. Every kid in El Paso knows Willie. And when you see Willie's face, you know you're talking water conservation.
And now we're moving into the commercial and industrial customer because even though there's a lesser amount of water used in those business sectors, there are gains to be made. So we are doing things with the Rio Grande, with our groundwater, with the desalination plant, with importation. So all of these things put together are important, but conservation is an important component of all of those, because all of those things together will not work without conservation.
El Paso is growing, population is growing, and we want to make sure that El Paso is known for their conservation efforts.
I'm very proud of us being the leaders in water conservation, and I can tell you honestly, back in 1991, we were truly the leaders. Nobody else was doing what we were doing, and we have been looked at as the example, the shining example of what other communities need to do from a water conservation standpoint.
Did you ever stop and wonder where water comes from here in our corner of the Chihuahuan Desert? Where does El Paso Water get water from? We're going to talk about that, as well as why it's important to conserve. And finally, we're also going to talk about how you can make a difference right in our own community. But before we talk about our local water, let's look at water overall. Here on Earth, 70 to 75% of the surface is covered in water. In fact, you can see the water from very, very far away. That's why we're called the blue planet. There is actually more water on the surface of the Earth than there is dry land. But is all that water available for consumption? Unfortunately not. Whenever we're thirsty, we all have access to clean, fresh water. If we're at home, we can go to a faucet or even the refrigerator door. The same is true at schools and businesses. All the water we use is fresh water. But not all the water on our surface is fresh. Of all the water on the surface of our planet, 97% of it is salty. That only leaves 3% that is actually fresh. But is all that 3% available? Actually, no. Of that 3%, 2% of that water is frozen. It is fresh, but it is frozen. That means that of all the water on the surface of the Earth, only 1% of it is available for consumption. What do we mean by consumption? Consumption simply means how we use water. We know that all living things on Earth need water. Humans use it to stay hydrated and to stay clean. We also use water for cooking and cleaning and even recreation, like swimming. These are examples of direct water use. Think about all the ways that you use water. We have a lot of different kinds of uses of water. We also use water in what we call indirect water use. Think about how much water it must take to produce things like food, clothes, and other materials. Industry, agriculture, and even electricity require a lot of water to produce. These are examples of indirect water use. All living things need fresh water, including those at our local zoo, like the giraffes and the zebras. Plants need fresh water too, from the native plants that grow naturally in our Chihuahuan Desert to the beautiful roses that grow in the municipal garden. And it's not just wild animals that need water. Our furry friends need water too, just like this cutie from Animal Services. And plants of all types all share in that 1% of available fresh water on Earth. It takes a lot of water to produce all the things that make up our community. When you stop and think about it, water really is everywhere. It takes a lot of water to produce all the things that make up a community, like materials for flags, plastics, metals, all kinds of buildings and structures. Who remembers when there used to be alligators, live alligators in the placita? But even from our Franklin Mountain State Park to our city parks and rec, even Southwest University Park requires a lot of water to build and to maintain. We all have access to fresh, clean water. Think about your favorite restaurant or your favorite clothing store. Think about all the water that is required. Where does that water come from? So the city of El Paso is in the Chihuahuan Desert. We're also known as the Sun City. We know that it can get very, very hot in the summer. It's also very, very dry. We average only about 8 to 10 inches of precipitation every year, and it's sunny almost 300 days out of the year. But the Chihuahuan Desert is known for beautiful mountains and rock formations, like the Aztec Cave Trail in the Franklin Mountains or Hueco Tanks. Different mountain ranges in the Chihuahuan Desert include the Sandia Mountains in New Mexico and the Guadalupe Mountain State Park. The Chihuahuan Desert is also home to very unique and beautiful plants and animals, like the javelina and the mountain lion. The Ocotillo is very popular for xeriscaping, which is a water-smart, water-efficient way of landscaping. The agave lechuguilla, shown here below, is an indicator species of the Chihuahuan Desert. That means that if you see the agave lechuguilla, you know you're in the Chihuahuan Desert. In our little unique corner of Texas and the Chihuahuan Desert, the Sun City, we have two different sources of water. Roughly half of our water supply comes from the Rio Grande, or the Rio Grande. We call that surface water. The other half of our water supply comes from aquifers that are underground. This is known as groundwater. Our groundwater comes from two different aquifers, one located on the east of the Franklin Mountain Range and the other on the west. The Rio Grande, known as the Rio Bravo in Mexico, is the fifth longest river in North America at about 1,900 miles. The Rio Grande begins in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado as snow. That precipitation runoff forms the beginning of the Rio Grande. And then that flows down southern Colorado through New Mexico and then down the west edge of Texas and ends at the Gulf of Mexico. There are other rivers and tributaries that feed into the river. This contributes to the many different ways the Rio Grande looks at different locations. Spring runoff into the Rio Grande is eventually stored in southern New Mexico's Elephant Butte. Eventually, it gets released for irrigation and municipal use in southern New Mexico and the El Paso area. The other half of our water supply comes from underground. Think back to the last time you played in a sandbox. Where is the best sand in a sandbox? Usually at the bottom, right? The sand at the bottom of a sandbox is typically darker, cooler, and the best part of that sand is that it's moldable. Who remembers making sand castles and tunnels and bridges? We learn from our experience playing in a sandbox about how water can be held between sand and rock and gravel particles. This is the basic concept of how an aquifer works. Permeable rock deep, deep underground can contain and transmit groundwater. El Paso is able to draw water from two different aquifers. To the east of the mountains, we have the Hueco Aquifer, or Hueco Bolson. On the west side of the mountains is the Mesilla Aquifer, or Mesilla Bolson. The word bolson may sound familiar. Kind of sounds like bolsa, which is the Spanish word for a bag. Think of an aquifer as a big bag of rock and water. So how do we get this water? El Paso Water has 4 water treatment plants. 2 of them treat groundwater, and the other 2 treat surface water. The Upper Valley Water Treatment Plant treats groundwater from the Mesilla Aquifer. It provides water to the Upper Valley, the West Side, Canutillo, Benton, and Westway. The Upper Valley Water Treatment Plant can produce about 30 million gallons of water per day. This is also the only water treatment plant that has the ability to treat both ground and surface water. The Robertson Umbenhauer Water Treatment Plant, also known as the Canal Plant, treats surface water from the Rio Grande. It provides water mostly for Central and the West Side. The Robertson Umbenhauer Water Treatment Plant can produce about 40 million gallons of water every day. The K. Bailey Hutchinson Desalination Plant treats groundwater from the Hueco Bolson. It provides water to the east side and the northeast. The KBH, as it's known, can produce about 27.5 million gallons of water per day. The K. Bailey Hutchinson Desalination Plant is also the largest inland desalination plant in the whole world. Pre-pandemic, people have come from all over the world to visit the K. Bailey Hutchinson Desalination Plant and see how we are managing water in our Chihuahuan Desert.
I left my lunch in my counter.
The Jonathan Rogers Water Treatment Plant treats surface water from the Rio Grande. It provides water to the east side and the lower valley. The Jonathan Rogers Water Treatment Plant can produce about 60 million gallons of water per day. Here in the Sun City, we know the importance of being water wise. In 2021, El Paso Water is celebrating 30 years of water conservation. 30 years of public events. 30 years of presentations. And 30 years of parades. Some of our conservation efforts come from our water ordinance. The water ordinance went into effect on April of 1991. It instructs residents to only certain watering days, and in the summer limits the time you can water. This helps avoid water loss due to evaporation. The water ordinance is available on our website, epwater.org. At Tech H2O, we also host signature events that center around STEM and different education that promotes environmental stewardship. We also have virtual presentations available due to the pandemic. Our conservation programs include work with our certified water partners, which are restaurants that use efficient water practices. We also host free landscape workshops that offer ideas and solutions for WaterSmart landscaping. In 2008, El Paso Water opened the Carlos M. Ramirez Tech H2O Water Resource Learning Center. This facility is owned and managed by El Paso Water and helps to foster an understanding and appreciation of total water management in the Chihuahuan Desert. We strive to promote water education as well as water conservation. The Tech H2O Learning Center is also home to Willie the Water Drop. Willie the Water Drop has also been through several changes in the past 30 years. Who remembers Willie the Water Waster? Willie started as an example of what not to do to conserve water. But through the years, Willie has seen the error of his ways and had a conservation conversion. Today, Willie is El Paso's most popular conservation ambassador.
Hi everyone, my name is April with El Paso Water, and here with me is Willie the Water Drop.
Hello everybody!
Hey Willie, were you washing dishes?
Yep. Did you know that you can save water when you wash dishes?
Yeah, Willie, you're right. Because if you're washing a full load of dishes by hand and you leave the faucet running, you could be wasting over 20 gallons of water.
That's a lot of water!
It really is, Willie. It's always best to fill up one side with warm water and detergent and the other side with cold, clean water for rinsing. Hey, do any of you at home have a dishwasher? What kind of sound does it make?
They can be really loud. So loud, I can't hear my favorite TV show.
In that case, Willie, it's always best to wait until you could wash a full load, as opposed to just washing 1 or 2 dishes.
Same thing for your laundry.
Exactly. The same rule goes for your washing machine.
I have to wait till I have a full load of my headbands to run the washing machine.
Exactly. It's always best to wash a full load as opposed to doing several small loads.
And use cold water as much as possible.
That's a good idea, Willie. Hey, Willie, how many of your headbands make a full load?
About 20 headbands. My headbands are really big.
So, do any of you know how to save water at home? Hey, Willie, what about you?
Well, how about saving water when you wash your car?
When you're washing your car?
Yeah, with one of these.
Oh, I've seen one of these. Those are a lot of fun.
These nozzles are designed to save water, especially if you're washing your car at home.
That's right, Willie. Here in El Paso, we have a city ordinance that requires you to use one of these and a bucket. However, if you don't want to wash your car at home, there's another place that you could take your car that also saves a lot of water.
That's right, a car wash.
Exactly, a car wash. A car wash saves water by recycling their water.
That's really smart.
Willie, you want to go with me to get my car washed and maybe get some ice cream after?
Ice cream, yippee!
All right, until next time, everyone. And don't forget,
Be
water wise. Say it with me. Be water wise.
We are looking forward to the next 30 years. And beyond. Everyone was affected by the global pandemic COVID-19, but we are slowly beginning to see the light at the end of a very long tunnel. We encourage everyone to continue to follow the safety guidelines of the CDC so that we can gather again soon. To keep up to date with what's happening in El Paso Water and Tech H2O, please follow us on social media. You can join us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Feel like getting even more involved? April is also National Volunteer Month. We love our volunteers. Did you know that our volunteers assist in our conservation and education efforts? Our volunteers range from students ages 14 and up to parents, professionals, and retirees that are looking to make a difference in their community. During the pandemic, our volunteers assisted us virtually and will continue to do so until we're back to normal. But as we begin to return, look out for El Paso Water volunteers at our community events. We're so grateful to all of you that give so generously of your time. If you're interested in volunteering, send us an email at volunteer@epwater.org for information. Remember, our local water here in El Paso comes from 2 different places. Roughly half of it is surface water from the Rio Grande. The other half comes from our 2 underground aquifers. We conserve because not just our community of El Paso, but the global community shares in this precious resource of water. And just like Willie says, remember, be water wise. Be water wise. Until next time, everybody.